Hi, I'm Art Webb, and welcome to College Beat. We've got a fine show lined up for you this week, and I'm going to be talking to Joe Gerson a little bit later on. And he's a full-time counselor with the Phoenix Area Draft Counseling, and we should have a very interesting conversation. But first, Dan Igor Glenn is going to perform for us. And just before he does, I want to mention that he has been selected to represent ASU at San Diego May 1st in a folk music talent contest sponsored by the Budweiser Company. And the winner there goes to Illinois in August to compete in the national contest. So, Dan, if you will.
10 years ago, on a cold, dark night, someone was killed neath the town hall light. There were few on the scene, but they all agreed that the slayer who ran looked a lot like me. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Well, the judge said, son, what is your alibi? If you were somewhere else, you won't have to die. I spoke not a word, though it meant my life. I'd been in the arms of my best friend's wife. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. Well, the skyfall is high and eternity's near. She stands in the crowd and sheds not a tear. But sometimes at night, when the cold wind moans in a long black veil, she cries o'er my bones. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows but me. When I was 17, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for small town girls and for soft summer nights. We'd hide from the light on the village green when I was 17. When I was 21, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for Sin City girls that lived up the stairs with perfumed hair that came undone when I was 21. When I was 35, it was a very good year. It was a very good year for blue-blooded girls of independent means. We'd ride in limousines, and their chauffeurs would drive when I was 35. But now my life grows short. I'm in the autumn of my years, but I think of my life as vintage wine from fine old kegs, from the brim to the dregs. It would pour sweet and clear. It was a very good year. Before I do this last song, I'd like to remind all of you out there to come in and join the fun at the College Deli this weekend. Reuben James, in my song you'll live again, though the phrases that I rhyme are just footsteps out of time, from the time when I knew you, Reuben James. Reuben James, all the folks around Madison County cussed your name. Just an old couch sharecropping colored man who'd steal anything he can, and everybody all laid the blame on Reuben James. Reuben James, you still walk the fertile fields of my mind. The faded shirt, the weathered brow, the calloused hands upon the plow. I loved you then and I love you now, Reuben James. A Flora Graves, the gossip of Madison County, died with child. And although your skin was black, it was the one that didn't turn me back. Lonely, hungry white child with no name, Reuben James. Reuben James, with your mind on my soul and a Bible in your right hand. You said, turn the other cheek, there's a better world waiting for the meek. In my mind, these words remain from a Reuben James. Reuben James, you still walk the fertile fields of my mind. The faded shirt, the weathered brow, the calloused hands upon the plow. I loved you then and I love you now, oh, Reuben James. Reuben James. One dark cloudy day they brought you from the field, till your lonely pine box came, just the preacher, me and the rain, to sing one last refrain for Reuben James. Reuben James, you still walk the fertile fields of my mind. The faded shirt, the weathered brow, the calloused hands upon the plow. I loved you then and I love you now, oh, Reuben James. Reuben James, Reuben James.
Dan Igor Glenn, and as he said a little earlier, he'll be appearing Friday and Saturday at 9 o'clock at the College Deli, and that's at Rural Road and University Drive. And also, he'll be at the MU on the Arizona State University campus. It's a pop concert there April 8th, and it'll be around lunchtime. Well, as I told you a little bit earlier, we have Joe Gerson here, and he's full-time counselor with the Phoenix Draft Area Draft Counseling Service. And Joe, welcome to College Beat.
Thank you.
When did draft counseling start, nationally and in Phoenix? Because this, in the last few years, has been a very important thing.
Well, I think draft counseling really began around 1917, when a lot of Quakers decided that they really weren't in for the service, that they were conscientious objectors, and they were really not too certain of what the law was. There was a lot more counseling done shortly after World War II, and the Quakers kind of carried the ball on it up until around the last 5 years or so. Shortly thereafter, the Central Committee for Conscientious Objectors started doing most of the work, and it's in the last year and a half kind of mushroomed all over the country, with CCCO kind of working as a clearinghouse and a reference point for counselors.
Where is the Phoenix Area Draft Counseling located?
We are located inside the Campus Lutheran Center, just off of ASU. The address is 1414 South McAllister in Tempe.
Well, let's get more into the meat of things now. What happens, what alternatives does a young man have facing the draft?
All right, a person has essentially 5 alternatives open to him. Obviously, he can go into the service, Army, Navy, or whatever, or he can attempt to get deferments for a period of time, which can be student deferments, medical, or otherwise. He can be a conscientious objector, if that's where his head is at. He can leave the country, as more than 60,000 American youths have done, or he can go to prison.
Now, okay, you said leave the country or go to prison. That immediately, I question, are these substantial alternatives? What are the ramifications of these things now?
Well, if a person leaves the United States to go to Canada or Sweden or somewhere else, he has cut, all ties. He can't come back. But one should remember that the pilgrims, and many of the people who settled this country were people who were fleeing other countries or lifestyles they didn't like. A lot of the American Jews came to flee from a Russian army. There was a 25-year conscription for all Jews aged 16 to 60. And they came to this country. In terms of prison, Gandhi spent a number of years in prison.
Right.
You know, it's a part of a life for people who believe certain things and have to live by their beliefs. Well, if one says, well, I believe this, but cops out at the last minute, then one really has to wonder where his head is at.
Right. Speaking of where one's head is at, I believe now this is the main objective, but I want to find out, does the draft counseling service try to push or advocate any one line or objective, such as complete resistance or something of that nature? Or what does it really try to do to the person that walks and sits down in that office?
Well, our primary purpose is to provide information and thought for people who come in. You know, a person who's interested in knowing how he relates, like how does he go about appealing for a 2S college deferment when he should have one, or his father, well, he had a case the other day, his mother was laid up permanently with sleeping sickness, or his father had a heart attack and couldn't lift her around, and we were interested in information about a hardship deferment. You know, you can't get this kind of information from the draft board. They just don't give it out.
Right.
So we do this. But, for example, we'll also maybe ask a person why, because sometimes people come in and they'll want to be out for a little while on a deferment, and they have something else back in their mind, but you know, it isn't coming out. So you just ask why and try to push back the boundaries of what is considered a legitimate thought. Like a lot of people are pacifists, but aren't really willing to face up to it.
Right.
But we don't push any particular line. It's we try to help people be free.
So if somebody says, hey, I don't care what anybody says, I'm leaving the country, actually, when you sit down and talk to him, you kind of get deep into his mind and kind of tell him a little bit of what's going to happen and might happen in the future.
Right. We'll also ask him why he's leaving the country to examine if he's gone through all of his alternatives. Perhaps he may be eligible for some deferment. And we'll also try to impress upon him the importance of the fact that he can't come back unless he's willing to face 5 years in prison.
Well, about this last minute or so now, explain a little bit about the draft week coming up.
All right. Nationally, there is a campaign as part of the anti-war national mobilization campaign focused against the draft. This will happen in Phoenix on March 18th and 19th. We'll have a open mic rally and some music on the night of the 18th, and then a vigil, silent vigil, and a peace liturgy at the induction center the morning of the 18th. And then from 12 until 5, I think we have a unique concept in creative nonviolence. We're going to try to cooperate the draft system and the draft boards.
Thank you for joining us on College Beat, Joe. Appreciate it. And understand your counseling is free also. We'll see you next week on College Beat.